transition to our next part two of this three-part direct-to-consumer marketing series. We have Mark Schlosser here from White Ops and David Bakey, another unique perspective into today's conversations from the direct-to-consumer tactics and brand marketing angle. So, Mark and David, I'll let you guys take it away. Friends in the audience, please keep the questions coming. I promise we're going to get to as many of them as we can. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Thank you very much. David, that's a tough one to follow up.
It is.
Cool.
Can you guys hear me okay? Just to make sure.
Intro? Dave, you wanted to provide just a quick intro on yourself?
Hello?
Hey, David.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I cannot hear you, Mark.
This is the fun part of doing webcams. Well, I can provide a quick intro as David sort of logs on here, if that's all right with everyone. For a quick intro, just on my side, I'm Mark Schlosser. I've been at White Ops for 5 years, and I lead our brand partnerships team. In case you're not familiar, White Ops is a global leader in bot mitigation. We partner with over 200 of the largest internet platforms and brands to protect them against sophisticated bots, which largely are disguised as humans looking and acting exactly like humans in that capacity. For brands, the first point of attack that we typically help to protect against is when bots are disguised within full marketing tactics. And this could include everything from search to social and programmatic as they're driving this traffic to their site. If a malicious bot does end up getting onto their site, what we help to protect against is ensure that these bots aren't interacting with their KPIs, filling out forms, filling out leads. And then from a downstream impact, and potentially the largest opportunity for marketers, is ensuring that only humans are entering into their data pools. Largely a mission-driven company at White Ops to disrupt the economics of the cybercrime and to really ensure that we're doing good for the internet. As we wait for David to log on here, as we think about like how we ultimately help out brands, it's really to ensure that we're helping to protect against their full marketing spend, and that's largely helping to ensure that they're only driving humans to site, hence the shirt. So as we wait a second here for David to get on.
Hey, Mark, just wanted to update you and everyone. We're troubleshooting with David right now. He should be on in just a minute. So I know, we're always appreciating these technologies. And I think as a society, we're starting to tax the limitations of and the bandwidth of, global video chat and conference line capabilities. But he'll be on in a second where we're going to figure it out. We always do. And so thanks for bearing with us. It is interesting, and I'm curious if you guys have, what are you guys seeing in terms of, your clients and how they're reacting to everything that's going on? Have you guys been, tapped for advice and any of the changes recently?
Yeah, it's super interesting, and understanding what's happening and continuing to correlate to protect our brands during these times. So we're seeing everything from some brands are turning off their overall traffic. Overall internet traffic is obviously up, and there's a lot of increased cyber threats overall that you could see across the news, whether it's with applications like Zoom bombing and education has struggled. So, with so many people working from home, it's increased the appetite for cyber criminals for sure. And from a White Ops perspective, what we're really trying to do is ensure that we can provide, brands with the data and analytics to ensure as they're shifting their marketing tactics, as they're going to new mediums, that it's actually humans behind those tactics, because a lot of this is a new world, and that means a lot of new tactics and a lot of new avenues that they're trying, and ensuring that every time they try something new, that they're actually reaching humans is a crucial aspect.
Exactly. Oh, that makes sense. All right, I was just told, so David from Harry's is going to call in for an audio only, I think. Oh, David, is that you?
It is. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
Oh, wow. I was just about to dial on the phone. So if this works, then I will not do that.
For a minute, we thought you were a bot. That's the joke with the White Ops.
That would have been better than what we got instead. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. Probably like the 8 kids in my house on Zoom, but sorry for that.
That's cool. So I guess it's a good segue. How you managing? How you holding up when with 8 kids in the house running around and no outdoor space?
Yeah, we're doing okay. It's not quite 8 kids. We've got 2, and we're fortunate enough right now to be holed up in sunny California. So we've got a fair amount of, fresh air, sunshine time, but keeping it adequately social distance from everybody else.
Cool. And I think it's definitely an interesting time overall. And, I think like before we start, I think like it's so important, just like showing gratitude. And I hit on sort of our overall mission as a company, but, like personal mission and showing gratitude is just so important. And, I remember during the Academy Awards when someone said, call your mom and just check in. I think like there's no better time right now to text a frontline worker and just say thank you and be appreciative for all they're doing right now, because the circumstances and the struggles that we're dealing with in terms of whether we could get on a Zoom meeting at a certain time are just so minimal to so many right now. And we just should all be thankful of all those that are helping us out. Outside of the frontline workers, brands overall, as we think about mission, have really adapted. And there were some good ones on the last call related to Audible and how they're partnering with Headspace. And then there's, hotels that are offering up their rooms and the autos are offering up, no payment systems for 90 days. Let's sort of start right there and dive right in a little bit. Harry's has always been sort of focused on a socials mission of mental health, and with isolation, I think that's Tamara, our CEO, was talking about it on the last one of doing sanity checks with people. How is sort of Harry's sort of doubling down on that mission, and do you reflect that into your marketing, or do you keep it separate?
Yeah, we definitely reflected in the marketing and have tried to double down on it a lot recently, knowing that it's something that is highly relevant for a lot of people who are stressed, people who are out of work right now, people who are, dealing with the fallout of what is pretty unprecedented across the country and across the world. And so we're fortunate enough to be partnered with some really great companies like Crisis Text Line in the US and Calm in the UK. And we've tried to bring those things front and center across a lot of the experiences within the customer journey for Harry's, including, I think if you go to the homepage of Harry's right now, you'd see, the sort of message on the top for the crisis text line. You can text 741-741 and speak with a crisis counselor immediately. We've replaced a lot of our emails that would have normally been commercially driven and focused emails with messages that literally just let people know that we're partnered with these great organizations and they can reach out anytime. And then we've instructed our customer service team to do the same. So if you call up and ask for a status on an order, certainly help you with that. But sort of in the closing of the call, they'll remind people that we have these resources available to them. So we found that, these things are being used in really, really great ways and helping a lot of people. And we're hearing from our organizations that we're sending them a lot of people who really needed help. And so it's been a really positive sort of experience for customers and a good thing that Harry's is doing.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's it's good to hear. And it's good to hear how the messaging has been refined. Do you want to just give a short background just on your experience of leading DTC brands and the expertise? Because this is going to be a really exciting conversation from my perspective in sort of picking your DTC knowledge here.
Yeah, so I've been with Harry's overall for about 5 years, and so in that amount of time, I've gotten to kind of grow up with the company. We started from the sort of meager background of being a men's shaving company that was online only, and we've sort of grown that to kind of a global brand that's operating both online and in retail environments, expanding beyond shaving to a lot of different other, sort of related categories: shower, hair, face, and one of the things that we've always tried to do at Harry's, and certainly this is true today more so than ever, is focus on the customer. Think about the experience that we want to create for them, which we hope really reflects on our brand in a positive way. And that can be things as simple as like the design of the website itself. It can be other places throughout the customer journey, like the emails that we send and trying to infuse our brand voice and just doing things for customers that kind of surprise and delight them along the way, knowing that we're selling a product that can be, kind of boring. And it's, it's a commodity that a lot of people use, but the experience of, working with Harry's and buying our products and, all that goes in between that, like, doesn't have to be boring. And so we try to create little moments of delight for people throughout their day. What
would be an example of that? Like what, how do you make a razor exciting?
Yeah. An example, I guess, off the top of my head would be, if you order like an 8-pack of razors and it comes in the mail, we have it set up inside of this sort of like cardboard box where there's like a 4-pack and a 4-pack and they're placed side by side. When you pull it out of the cardboard on one side in the little hole, it says "You're Subble." And then you pull out the other one and it says "Is in trouble." So, this little like surprise and delight moments for customers, even using copy in a way that it's helpful for them. Or, we've got set up inside of like our automated flow of emails, like, personalized messages that come from our customer service team that ask you, if you need any help, is there anything we can do to sort of make your experience better, which is not a sales message. And as I'm sure you can imagine, it generates a lot of calls for our team, which is more expensive on balance, but we think it's the right thing to do for the brand. And so it's a lot of those types of things that we do.
Cool. I think that is, it's like a Snapple cap in a message there. So as far as like, spending 5 years at Harry's, like the DTC landscape has evolved so much. What have you seen as the major changes over the course of 5 years?
Wow. I mean, I think first and foremost, it's a lot easier for companies to launch, and what you see is a lot of new products in the space today relative to what there was 5 years ago. If you think about how easy it is nowadays to secure a product through a manufacturer, whether that's China or otherwise, but services like Alibaba that make it really easy for companies that are sort of up and coming and brand new to connect with people that can give them a product. Easy for them to then market that product online and set it up on a Shopify type of experience, and have sort of integrations with everything that you need behind the scenes, from like distribution centers to customer service tools. Like everything now is sort of plug and play. And I think what that has created in this environment is this sort of like proliferation of every product sort of being available in a sort of standalone way on a website experience that you can just sort of like buy. And which in and of itself like isn't a bad thing. But I think what that means for every one of these companies, and Harry's included, is that like, we have to do a lot more than what we had to do 5 years ago to really like stand out. We have to do a lot more to capture attention. We have to do a lot more to keep customers coming back. We have to do a lot more to sort of make the experience a better experience for them. And that's one of the things that, I think will separate a lot of the companies who can kind of make it work from the companies who are really able to make it work.
Cool. And so do you, as a user or new user acquisition strategies, you're thinking about going from razors to soaps and other household goods, do you try to target their current user base since you have subscriptions on them? Do you sort of go after them, or is it more of a totally different market for you?
It's both, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so we've got, an engagement strategy with existing customers that allows us to, think about who within our base would be interested in some of the new products that we sell and engage with them across those product lines. And that's true across a lot of different places in the customer journey. That's, certainly emails that we can send to people that let them know about these other things that we sell, but also unboxing experience or calling into customer service or site experiences where when you're checking out on one product, we can offer you, a different product line as well. So that is definitely a big strategy with our existing customers. And then similar to like razors, we try to acquire customers across these different product lines as well. And so we've got unique customer acquisition campaigns, where we're trying to acquire people into our shower products and hair products and so on and so forth.
So you have some intel, which I'm really curious about right now. People are definitely washing their hands more. And you also sell shower gel.
Yeah.
Are people still showering, and are they buying as much shower gel as they are hand soap?
Yeah. It's hard to sort of tell whether or not people are showering more or less. I think that, with certainly within the walls of Harry's, we've tried to sort of communicate that like, you should try to keep as normal of a schedule as possible to try to maintain as much sanity. And for a lot of folks, that means like you get up and you shower and put on a fresh pair of clothes, eat breakfast at a normal time, and, brush your teeth before sitting down at the computer. My guess, though, is that there's a lot of people across the country that aren't really doing that. I mean, you see the funny memes on sort of Instagram saying things like, I just did a fresh load of pajamas yesterday because I want to have, clean clothes for the week. Harry's is fortunate enough to sort of be in this place where we're selling products that maybe aren't considered by a lot of people to be, critical purchase products in your life, things that you like absolutely have to have, like food or toilet paper, I guess, for a lot of people. But we're certainly closer to that end of the spectrum than we are to the spectrum of like, luxury watches or travel or things like that. And so I think we're sort of benefiting at this point in time, at least in some respects, from like selling a consumable good that people are still using, whether that's like razors or soap or shampoo, or body wash. And, we work with really good manufacturing partners, really good distribution partners that have able to sort of keep us stocked up and delivering on time and in full, both to our direct consumers and to retail partners. So, we're fortunate in that respect.
Cool. And you're in a rare position, and it's a fascinating conversation in itself, and we'll focus more on the marketing side of it. But as a company that was blocked, has an acquisition blocked by the FTC, which must have taken a ton of time and consumed sort of everything from morale to overall time. Like, how do you, this topic fascinates me. Like how do you keep the humans at Harry's sort of continuously motivated every day and continue the messaging when something like that happens?
Yeah, that's been the sort of, balancing act for us of like managing the day-to-day business and making sure that we're sort of keeping the lights on and progressing against the roadmap in the way that we want, while this sort of, what feels like a 1.5 year long distraction has been sort of just ongoing. And it's almost a roller coaster ride of a distraction because, we entered into this period of like a year ago, where we're like, yay, we're selling the company and isn't this going to be like a great thing, to then rolling into like, the honeymoon is over period of like, okay, now it means it's like a ton of work for us to figure out how to operate as a combined organization in a way that's going to really, 1 + 1 = 3, like really create some magic here. To then realizing that like, okay, like we think we have a good answer, we're feeling good, we've got a new set of like combining mission, vision, values, to like, wait a second, like there's a chance that the FTC might say no, and all hands on deck to try to like get them to actually say yes, with like literally our founders, Jeff and Andy, camped out in DC for several weeks, going to all these depositions, to then realizing that like, oh shit, like this, there's now a better than not chance that this thing is actually going to be blocked, and we need to start thinking about how we are going to respond to that. The sort of decision that you're making there is like you could sort of countersue the FTC and take them to court and force a judge to make a decision and present your case in a way that feels a bit more balanced and fair. But that's a huge distraction and could take another year's worth of time. Or you sort of cut it loose and you walk away. But then, to your point, like, yeah, you've got to get the rest of the team and the organization excited again about the future of the company as a standalone organization. So we ultimately took that sort of path B and decided that, there is a really compelling future for Harry's as a standalone organization. And certainly, on a personal level for a lot of people across the organization, it was a difficult thing to wrap your mind around, that, people put like a year and a half worth of work into something that is now literally just torn up and tossed in the trash can. And a lot of people stood to make a fair amount of money from this personally. And so for those reasons, it didn't feel great. But if you sort of put those aside and you think about like, okay, well, are we excited about the world of Harry's as a standalone company? The answer is a resounding yeah. I mean, Harry's, is in a very good position, sort of financially, having done a good job over the last year and a half to really keep our costs in check while continuing to grow the business. So very stable as a company. The path to future growth is really obvious as we think about, even within core channels, just expanding further into the retail environment and continuing to grow the DTC business. Like, that is the sort of roadmap that we have been executing and can continue to execute with really, really clear places for growth within. But then also this sort of idea that Harry's can be a multi-brand company that competes with Procter & Gamble versus just this grooming company that can compete with Gillette. And we're about to launch a handful of new brands to really bring that vision to life, and that is super compelling. And so, I think what we tried to do is really anchor people on, and this is all sort of like pre-coronavirus COVID-19. Like, if you pretend that the world was normal, like the things that you would be working on are all in support of Harry's as this sort of like multinational CPG company that has a lot of new exciting brands, growth in existing channels, and hopefully a lot of growth in these new brands as well.
Cool. And then, as you're thinking about, scaling out the leading independent company in your space, like what is important when you determine the right customer acquisition media mix?
Yeah. I mean, it's a multi-pronged answer. There are a lot of things that are important. There's the sort of like financial component of what's important, which is anytime you are spending money on customer acquisition, if it's through like the performance lens, you should have a really clear view on the return on investment of those marketing dollars that you're deploying. And so there's the sort of financial answer, which is it's important for us to make sure that we have a payback window on our sort of marketing spend that we are comfortable with. And have that be as consistent as possible across all the various places where we are sort of acquiring customers. There's the sort of like brand answer, which is equally as important for us, which is that like we don't want there to be sort of conflicting messages out in the world or things that represent our brand in different ways. We want things to feel as clean and consistent across every touch point as it possibly can be. And so as we've looked over, especially over time, like most companies, you sort of start out in the digital landscape, turning on ads and social media, and then you kind of expand to paid search where there's some amount of like intent, and then you flip on retargeting and like other channels. But then, like, where a lot of companies kind of get stuck is like, well, where do you go from there? And there's all these other channels, but are they really considered performance channels, or are they top of funnel and they introduce people versus convert? And I think what Harry's has done a really good job at over time is proving that these channels can be really good for performance and really can drive high ROI customer transactions. So whether that's podcast, or radio, or direct mail, or some of our print inserts, magazine ads, and things like that, like we view pretty much everything that we do through this lens of like, we're trying to acquire customers with these ads, and we need to make sure that we're not overpaying for those customers. Otherwise the business gets flipped upside down. And so we look at it sort of like through this dual part kind of financial lens, but also like brand lens, because we want these channels to work, but not at the risk of having our brand be presented in a way that we're not comfortable with, that kind of violates our guidelines.
Yeah, for sure. And that and sort of enters into an interesting conversation of just sort of trust and understanding of everything from certain media tactics in terms of where they're going to be presented to what's actually happening with them. Is there any situations ever where you start to look at analytics that are being driven on site and you just wonder, like, how is this possible?
What's an example in your mind?
It could be someone spending too much time on site. It could be that somebody's converting too many leads. It's not, there's no way that this is possible. We see everything from sophisticated form fills that are completed. Maybe someone signing up for auto test drives. Very sophisticated sort of acquisition models that are being gamed.
Yeah, certainly no shortage of that. And we've got a really good team internally that's thinking about fraud prevention. What we saw early days at Harry's, we still see some of this now, is that people were placing orders for way more products than they would use as an individual. And when you start kind of pulling on the strings and understanding, like, why would they do that? It turned out that these people were actually just buying a bunch of product that they could sell in markets that we had not yet launched in. So they could take the products, send them overseas, send them to Asia, South America, and then set up their own sort of like kind of cloned version of the Harry's website to sell these products over there because there's a fair amount of demand. And that's something that we had decided that we're not really comfortable with. And so we kind of like block these orders. If there are like too many products per order, we try to validate that like it's a real person and they're not doing anything with those products that we would want them to do. I think we also see that, there are times when campaigns that we run can drive a ton of what we have this like free trial experience for new customers coming into Harry's. And the way that we sort of have described that experience is that we are so confident in like the product that we've created and the experience that you're going to have with it that like we are literally willing to just give you one for free. And because we think you are going to like it, you probably will stay on and become a paying subscriber for us, and we can start sending you razor blades over time. So we actually lose money on every one of those new customers that come through the front door, and we only make money on them because they're happy and they stay a long time, and we've got really strong retention rates. So whenever we see not a handful, but like a lot of new customers coming through this trial experience that don't make it past what we call the bill through window, like which is effectively for us like day 17, which is the length of the trial, these customers start rolling over into paying subscribers. If we see that those customers are not rolling over to paying subscribers, we start looking at the source of where they came from. And, a lot of times there'll be partners that we may be compensating on like a cost per acquisition basis that figured out how to get a bunch of people to like go in and get the free trial set and then cancel right away, which is, bad for our business, certainly, and obviously, also not the experience that we're trying to create for our end user.
And so, in those particular cases, protecting that data and ensuring that there's not sort of a lifetime value how do you sort of weed out the data that is being done maliciously from that point forward? Because if a pilot doesn't convert, obviously you're still trying to get them to convert for a certain period of time. So how do you ensure that that data point is sort of expunged from the data pool?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it depends on whether or not if it's like actually fraudulent versus if it was just a sort of misaligned incentive, right? And when I say actually fraudulent, if somebody's coming in with like a stolen credit card number to get the set entirely for free and then the charge isn't able to process, that type of thing, we actually block, we don't sort of count the revenue until an order ships, and we won't actually ship until a credit card clears. So we have a pretty good system in place for blocking those fraudulent orders. And then for those things, we can just rip out and extract from the data. The other one, though, is a bit more challenging, right? Because if there's like a misalignment in the sort of incentive structure, meaning a customer that comes in who only wants to get the free trial set and has no intention of staying on as a paying subscriber, okay, well, that's actually probably our fault for creating a scenario in which that would be sort of promoted to a customer through a partner that is getting financially sort of rewarded for that action, which is not an action that like is beneficial to our business, we don't remove that from the data. Like for us, that's just sort of a reminder of like, hey, remember that time when we got all those customers and they didn't stay on? Like you're going to see that in the data as a lower bill through rate and lower LTV. We try to avoid working with partners that would do that by creating an incentive structure that is, sort of aligned with creating a higher value customer, meaning like we can pay somebody a smaller amount for the sign up of a trial and then pay a partner a bigger amount if that customer stays on to their first, second, or even third paid order. So it's sort of like a chained commission event. For what it's worth, like we don't do a ton of CPA deals. Like a lot of our marketing is us just like, paying for the media placements themselves. So this isn't a huge component of what we're worried about on a day-to-day, but it is something that we've thought about and try to mitigate in that way.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic all in itself, just in terms of how bots sort of, or whether it's an actual human or whether it's an automated process that's trying to get paid out on a particular incentive model. In the case that you had, it was someone signing up for a pilot, and then once they sign up, they're actually getting paid, and they don't have to even put in any financial payments there. And it's there's a lot of models like that, and I think ensuring the full process, whether you're using a technology partner like White Ops or you're just cleaning up your processes, I think there's a lot that marketers could do to really think about. So we have a lot of Q&A here, and I think we can get to a couple questions. So let's sort of dive in. I'm going to pick a random one here. This one's from Zev Kraus. Where do you see the role of social media and an organic search engine within the customer funnel and informing future state growth strategies? So where do you see the role of social and search?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, there's the sort of like attribution answer that I can give, and then there's the sort of customer facing answer that I can give, and I'll try to answer both. But effectively, the attribution answer is probably a little bit easier to sort of wrap your mind around, which is we look at overall at like this blended CPA, cost per acquisition, revenue customer that we bring through the front door. Anything that is not tracked as a paid channel, so that could be organic search, it could be our earned presence on social media, referral visits and links from other sites, things like that. We bucket together into this sort of non-paid tranche that we give attribution to for like every other channel. So we effectively track everything that we can across all of our paid, and then distribute all of that organic bucket to one of those paid channels based on a sort of attribution model that we have, which allows us to sort of like spend a bit more from a CPA perspective across all these paid channels that we can track, but while still managing to an overall blended CPA. I think that the sort of answer from a customer facing perspective and what do these things do for our brand is a little bit of a different answer, and it depends on the channel. I mean, in search, where there is really high intent and people are looking for the things that we offer, we want to make sure that we are showing up as often as we possibly can, because it's a zero-sum game, and if we're not there, somebody else will be. And so we've worked with really great SEO partners over the years to try to rank for both the sort of high-level head key terms that people may be searching for on Google, but also the longer tail search terms, and trying to come up with content that supports the strategy there, in addition to getting a lot of like inbound links to help us rank better for those keyword terms. That one's maybe a bit more obvious. On the social front, I mean, I view a lot of the engagement that we do as being something that is like highly supportive of our brand. So we have a lot of messages that we post out on social media that are aimed to like engage with customers in a positive way, help us keep sort of Harry's top of mind, and just be sort of like a fun, engaging thing that we do. It is not ROI positive per se, to the extent that we're tracking the increase in LTV or the increase in the number of like incremental conversions that we get from those activities. relative to the amount that it costs us to like create the assets and have somebody post them and all that. But it is something that we view as being highly supportive of the brand and something that keeps us like really top of mind for the people that matter most to us. People that are like following our sort of presences on Instagram and Facebook and things like that.
Cool. And we have another question here from Brianna Norris. What was the first category you entered outside of razors, and which category was the most challenging to enter?
Yeah, we had a couple upsell products that were in the face category, but we never really thought about it as a category as much as we thought about them as just upsell items. And those products were face wash and face lotion. So the sort of technical answer there would be like, it would have been the face category. That said, like the first time that we really thought about it as a second category and put a lot of effort into the launch moment was for our body products, so body wash and bar soap. And then from there we went to hair. I think that like between all of those, the body products were the most difficult for a handful of reasons. One is they're heavy products that tend to be kind of big. And just so from a DTC perspective, like shipping giant tubes of body wash across the country in a way that's like cost effective for us and to the end user is challenging to make work. The second reason is that the most common way that people make a decision about body wash when they're buying it is walking in the sort of store, popping the top and smelling it. You don't have the ability to do that through a screen. And so we had to get kind of creative about the best way to sort of communicate the sort of experience that you were going to have using our product, the smell, the bubbles, all of that sort of thing. And I think the team has done a really good job. But
did you send like scratch and sniff stickers where they can just smell it and then see which one they want?
That was definitely on the idea board that we had. It didn't make the cut, unfortunately, because I thought that would have been such an amazing thing to do for a lot of people. We did come up with like travel sized versions of these things that we could sell at a much lower price point and even give them away for free to people. It's interesting. Like one of the things that, was sort of like outside of our consideration set at first. And this is sort of agnostic of like any and all of these categories, but we were trying to think about the best way to engage with existing customers to buy these products. And we created this shopping cart upsell experience that initially asked people if they wanted to buy one of these other products. So imagine you had a cart full of razors, a little pop-up comes up and says, hey, do you want to add face wash or body wash or whatever the product is to your order? And it was kind of effective. About like 7% of people would click yes and add that to their cart. But we came up with this idea of what we call like a mystery item. And so as people are like going through the checkout experience, instead of asking them if they want to add a face wash, we say, do you want to add some mystery to your cart? And they're basically saying yes to like adding an unknown item to their cart. And it's $5. It's that we guarantee that it's going to be a product that's at least that valuable or more. And the cross-sell rate of that is 30%. And then we just take the face wash and put it in the mystery item bag and then send it to the user. So it dramatically increased our ability to upsell at the point of sale. And for us, that means that we can put in that sort of cart or that basket items that somebody has never tried before. So it really helps for us with product adoption and introducing a lot of these products to our customers for the very first time.
Cool. Fascinating conversation from a lot of perspectives. I know David is going to be hopping on here and to wrap this up, but really appreciate your time and hope everyone enjoyed it.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, David. Take care.
Thank you so much. As always, we got a ton of great questions. So, David, we'll share them after, maybe get some of them answered.